And welcome everybody to that 401k virtual bunch. Ari Rosenbaum here with Mark Koeppen, right?
Keppen.
Koeppen.
Yep,
I'm very bad at pronunciations.
that's all right.
You know, Then again, I've been going about 48 years being called Ari Rosenbaum. But anyway, before we get to Mark, let's talk about some of the events that we have on tap. That 401k virtual conference number 10, that's tomorrow, May the 10th. That 401k virtual bunch with Jamie Raskin. And of course, before that, on Thursday, April 22nd, James Moyna, CPA, we'll talk to him. So May 10th will be Congressman Jamie Raskin. And then in September, the Hope and Dream, my idol Theodore Herzl said it best: "If you dream it, if you will it, it is no dream." I will try to will live events in September. We have scheduled St. Louis on September the 10th. I wanted to say May. Um, we're going to be in Minnesota probably on September 24th and Houston in September 29th to finish out the 2020 events that we had scheduled and we had booked, and we'll have them in 2021 hopefully. And in December, we hopefully will have an event in Las Vegas. I know I'm getting my second shot this Wednesday, I'll, and I'll get my vaccine passport at the end of April, and of course my hair will be cut by then as well. Um, so Mark, thank you for joining me. Um, how'd you start in the retirement plan business, or how'd you start in business and that segued into the retirement plan business?
Yeah, sure. And with all of us just in a roundtable almost, I would like to just open it up and talk to everybody at the same time. If that works for you, Ari.
Yeah, of
Hey,
course.
what's up, Mike? Um, so a little bit background on me. I actually started out underwriting life and health insurance for Great West back in 1990, and realized shortly thereafter that that was a mind um, lobotomy waiting to happen. I mean, it was just a dying industry, I thought. So I got out of there and moved over to the financial services side of Great West and worked on their uh, business with, the annuity products and the old advisors that they had selling their annuity products to all these plan sponsors. And then I think it was 90, that was 93, 96, I ended up becoming a relationship manager to institutional partners when FastCore was created, and started managing MetLife and American Funds, M&T Bank, like Mason, um, who else? SunTrust, um, quite a few over that course of a couple of years. And then MetLife started um, offering the fixed in funds program. So I think they were really one of the first to offer uh, a fixed annuity contract alongside mutual funds. And between 97 and about 2003, I mean, it was just all out. I mean, we were bringing on probably 5, 6 plans, 7 plans a quarter, 100 million, 500 million. Um, and we were just bringing them in on the record keeping side and setting up all the plan work and everything. And then it was 2005 when I went over to MetLife as an account executive and our district manager out of Denver. And that was about the time MetLife had won Concordia Retirement Savings Plan, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. They just started a 403B. And so it was a startup. And the account executive at the time, he was a retired colonel from the Air Force. And he was like, if we win this plan, I quit. They won the plan, he quit. So that gave me the opportunity to move over. And he quit because they had about 6,900 different locations and had to come in. I mean, these were, one church,
Yeah.
one person churches. across the country, and setting up each one of them for a payroll and all that. I mean, I wanted to quit and I wasn't even hired yet, but so I went over and started working on that, and left MetLife the end of 2012 and went to work in the auto rollover space in 2014 to 2017. And then at the end of 2017, FPS recruited me from my old position, and it was good timing. They were really trying to become present in the market on a daily basis, because their product and their features really was a night and day difference again from where I was coming from. So that was good to come in and be able to really create a new product. I mean, it was a product they had, but they didn't have much material or collateral around it. So I worked on creating our identity in our space, and making us a household name with plan sponsors and TPAs and advisors. And that's what I've been doing up until this point. So it's been a interesting career, but really like where I'm at, and like what I'm doing, because it's not really an interesting product or aspect of retirement plan management, but it's something that really does impact the plan sponsor negatively if they're put on a DOL audit, and the participants benefit from it as well. So
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting space because it's a space that, let's go to the history of it. It's fairly new in a sense that prior to 2005, I think it was 2005, changed the rules dealing with the cash out rule.
right,
The cash out rule was 3,500, then it went to 5,000 under TRA 97. Why do I? It's like I still remember.
extra,
I don't. Yeah. TRA 97 was part of extra.
sure,
I don't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, but I still remember that. And then, of course, in 2005, they changed the cash out rules. They would lower it to 1,000 unless you had an automatic rollover solution. And the funniest part about the automatic rollover solution is, what do you do with missing participants? Because prior to the rollover specialists coming out of the woodworks, if you had a missing participant, you would, a former missing participant, there were only two things you did. Three things. One is you escheat to the state. And actually, it was two things. It was a sheet to the state, which nobody would do because that actually required. Now, the three things: a sheet to the state. The plan document did allow you to forfeit the money, and the hidden trick that we don't talk about anymore because the Department of Labor says we're not allowed to do it anymore.
right,
But
100% tax withholding.
Exactly, which I thought was not nice. Just like we have a Yiddish word for it. We call it chutzpah. That you take somebody's money and you just, I can't find you. I didn't even look for you. I mean, that's prior to the cheap internet searches, and here it's 100%, and maybe the IRS will let you know if you do file your taxes that you did put more income away. I mean, it was just not fair, but that's what we used to do.
Yeah.
But that changed in the rollover space, and obviously the other big change is the Department of Labor, interested in missing participants, which they weren't. So they did have that. I think the rule was maybe in 10 or maybe 2010 or 9 or 8. I don't know. One of those years when they said you can't do 100% withholding anymore.
Right.
And we all know that they're obviously a handful of competition to FPS Trust. But what sets you guys different than everybody else? Because I always feel like a lot of the rollover. Here's a funny story with my wife. My wife lost her job as a result of COVID. The firm was cutting back. Luckily, she had a job offer at the time, so she moved over. And so the funny aspect of it was she got a rollover in August. Come about a month, 2 months ago, she gets a little letter from one of your competitors. You're a missing participant. Here's your money, minus $30. So it was funny because, you know, her husband's an ERISA attorney. So what did my wife do? She filed a complaint with the Department of Labor. So we got that going. That's a lot of fun because she wants her $30 back. But more
Sure.
importantly, if you think about it, I mean, it's a rookie TPA mistake. Well, it's not the TPA's fault because actually it's a very good TPA based out of Jersey. But what was funny was uh, plan the plan sponsor, her employer. They were just miserable, you know, miserable law firm as most law firms are, at least working for them. And you know, you pay her out in August, you give her a W-2, and then you say she's missing. I don't know how that happens, but that's a funny. That's my segue. But how do you differentiate yourself from other, you know, the main competition that's out there? Because you do have what I, you know, this is a leading question, obviously.
Yeah. And there is, a shrinking market of, competitors, because one seems to keep buying everybody else up. But um, the the biggest difference that the probably four main competitors do today is our ability in our actual process to look for these people. We're doing a search immediately when we get the account. Not all of them do that. They actually just take the address that's given to them, send out the letter, and if they get return mail, then at some point they'll look for a better address. So, if they're doing a monthly fee versus an annual fee, and they're not looking for an address up front, the likelihood of them actually collecting the entire annual fee is pretty high. I would think it'd be around 90% probability that they'd get 12 monthly fees out of that person. So we're looking for the account address up front, verifying it, looking for the best address. We're actually looking for an address on every account owner at the time we run statements. So if we've got an updated address in that search, we'll send out the statement to the new address. Then we're looking for an address 30 days prior to the anniversary of the account. That gives us time to produce a welcome kit again if we get a new address, and time for that participant to execute on that and take their account before another annual fee is assessed. So that's really one of the biggest differences between all of us, is our ability and our dedication to look for every account owner, not just the people that we get return mail on. The second, benefit to our product is that we're using a stable asset fund. It's a group annuity contract. It has a guaranteed interest rate. Currently, we're crediting 1.15%. But it also, it has the same protections as an FDIC insured money market. It has $250,000 account security with the State Guarantee Association backing that up. So, an account that's FDIC insured, maybe crediting 9-10 basis points today. We're crediting 115. It's not hard to see where the value is. Then our lower fee, we're really one of the lowest in the industry amongst third-party providers, and even some of the record keepers. And then that fee, again, isn't taken immediately. We take it the month after the account is set up. So once we get the account, send out the welcome kit, somebody can take the distribution from the account before we assess the annual fee. And, we're just trying to minimize, the fees that are coming from the account. Over the course of our, life doing this since 2013, we've opened up, over 500,000 accounts, and we have about 140,000 accounts left on the books. It's not a huge number, right? I mean, 100 and some thousand accounts, that's a lot, but not really in the scheme of things. That's because we want to make sure that these people get their money, and that's just proof that we're doing a good job with our process, getting these people reconnected with their accounts. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
because I'm a little curious about those 140, because that seems a little bit. I mean, I know your success rate in finding people is pretty good. So that 140, is that people who are actually still missing, or are those people who are just not responsive?
Both. I mean, it's
Okay.
hard to tell who's
Okay,
missing
makes
and
sense.
who's unresponsive.
Because that makes
But
more sense. Because I would think that the success rate in actually finding people, like finding valid addresses for people,
yeah,
is pretty high nowadays. With the
yeah. Well, I mean, there's still a fair amount of people that go dark. It's interesting. But and that 140 actually includes this last quarter where we, every quarter we get, a fair a fair dump of accounts from all the different record keepers. So with that, we have a fair number that are just brand new, and haven't even been on the books a month yet. So, the ability for us to look for an address on every single individual, though, at those 2 times each year, is still better than what anybody else is doing. And we have a better shot of reconnecting with them faster once they do come back, and actually trigger a change of address somewhere.
Yeah. So I mean, with some of the other competitors, it just seems to me one large float. It's the business is I get you the $25 per account or whatever it is. I don't. It used to be maybe they're higher, and they park the money in what?
They're parking it in a bank money market fund.
Okay.
So,
and how much are they banking of that rate? I mean, what is the money market account paying anyway? I don't even know.
I think 2.5, 2.5 to 280, 290, somewhere in there.
You mean basis points?
Yes.
Okay.
2.9%.
0.29%. And how much is the participant getting out of that?
Well, they're receiving 2.90%, but they're only crediting 0.10% for easy math.
So they're pocketing the 0.19 plus.
They're pocketing about probably 280.
Okay, plus the fee, and so
plus the fee.
So these missing participants, unless they have a decent account balance, are losing money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We would jokingly call this a skimming operation, but it's totally legal. And the Department of Labor wouldn't allow a provider just not to bother and trying to not find these people.
Right.
But what other what happens when a participant is found? Do they have an opportunity to stay with you, or is there other services that you guys offer?
Our client service team really looks to walk them through the thought process and their decision process of what to do with it next. So while we have an IRA that somebody can move into or reallocate into other mutual funds, that's not our main goal. So we're not a Fidelity, pushing a managed account service for 150 basis points on a $2,500 balance. We're just trying to help these people figure out what to do with their money next, whether that's consolidate into other IRAs, help them move it to another employer's retirement plan. If they want cash, we'll give them cash. But if they want, we also ask them if they're eligible for a high deductible health plan where they're working now. It's one of our abilities. Since we're a custodian of an HSA, we can do a paperless transfer, same day transfer into an HSA account for the individual. So if they're eligible for a high deductible health plan, transfer and pre-fund that HSA with the retirement funds, eliminates any taxable liability they had under the IRA. And it's all tax-free for qualified medical expenses going forward. So as long as they're not exceeding the limit, either individual or family that year, it's a great way to transfer that wealth into a product that can be used tax-free going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, to me, options. To me, outside of that, everything else is just very, very plain in that rollover space.
It is. It's pretty straightforward otherwise. I mean, it's you either get hit with fees and they sit on the accounts and they get feed out after a while. They have a lot less of their retirement account, but that's not our approach. Our approach is to really try and provide them as much of their retirement assets that they've saved when they do reconnect with us. So we're not with the higher account balance or the higher credited rate on their account balance and our lower fee. It's around $1,900, or I'm sorry, about 22. Start seeing fee erosion. Anything above that $2,400 mark, they're actually earning money on their account with us.
Isn't one of the toughest parts of your business is that, like for example, Great West used to have their own rollover solution, then they made a deal with one of your competitors.
Right.
Is that a difficult?
And then they made another deal.
I'm sure they did.
They went back and extracted their other pound of flesh.
Listen, it is what it is, but it's like I found that, like for example, with one of the plans that I run in Florida, to make the switch over, it was an Empower plan, and they give it to you. They don't fight about it. But it's interesting that that's something that it's the provider, the rollover provider is kind of like wedded to the specific TPA or bundled provider. That's got to be
right.
very, very difficult. And I mean, and to me, that's a problem for the plan sponsor as a fiduciary. And we've had that situation in an audit where we were asked on an audit on a terminated plan, why'd you pick such and such provider? And I think that was years ago. It was like a Hancock plan that we terminated, and they asked questions, and just saying I picked one of your competitors just because my TPA has a deal with them. I mean, to me, that doesn't seem like a great idea.
It's hard to defend that a little bit if there's better options available, and that's one of the things that people don't look at, and that's why I keep on stressing it. If participants, again, I jokingly say it's a skimming operation. It's not illegal, but in a sense, that's really what that whole business is. I give, you tell me it's 30 basis points, and I'm giving the participants 10, and I'm pocketing 20. In the 401k world, that would be legal. In the rollover business, it's, right now that's legal. Right. Yeah,
hey,
it's legal issue. That's right, Greg.
Yeah, George, you can ask.
Yeah, George.
Hey, Mark, I'm George Chave. I'm with AccuRecord. We were introduced. Well, first of all, I love the flag in the background. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you.
Ari's,
I appreciate that.
Compared to Ari's laundry basket, but
one of these days, I gotta like napalm it, whatever.
Anyway,
I should have put the background like I did with the virtual event, and just put the background.
I was introduced. I guess Jamie DeRobertis had introduced. I'm a record keeper.
Yes.
AccuRecord, and is there minimums? Like I have I've lost a few plans with COVID, and I'm having a difficult time. Like there's one or two participants that we're having trouble finding. Do you guys have minimums? Do you really care about that? Or?
We don't. We'll take your one or two that you can't find. Just
so
ship
you'll
them
take
off.
My headaches just for a few thousand.
I'll take your headaches. That's right. Yep.
All right.
And I was working with Steinmart, who went out of business, and Principal, or actually, no, I'm sorry, it was Prudential. They talked them into, keeping the force outs there. But when it came down to it, they were trying to close it out, and Prudential's like, well, we can't take these accounts. We think they're dead. We're not going to take them. We have these people that we can't verify addresses on. We can't take those. We have these people that, you know, are beneficiaries, but they haven't responded to us, so we can't take those. And it, you know, it's all of those record keepers have the same thing. I mean, they're like, well, unless we know that it's a valid address, we're not going to take it because we don't want to deal with it. So we bailed them out and took all the crap that they didn't want. But that, you know, that gave the plan sponsor the ability to zero out the plan as of 12/31 and be done with it. You know, otherwise, you know, they would have had to been allocating money or doing something in their receivership, you know, to carry that forward, you know, and figure out how they were going to pay for closing that down. But, you know, it's a problem, you know, and if we can solve the problem, we're happy to. So,
I mean, I know that these are not what they have on our file are not valid addresses, and the
don't care.
doesn't even have a valid address.
As long as we have social, date of birth, and last known address,
Right.
and a reasonably correct name.
I gotta assume their social security number is correct, because at one point they were contributing, you know?
Sure.
So,
Well, you'd be surprised. I've had a couple where the social security number was actually co-opted by 3 or 4 others, and yeah, it was with CenturyLink, and they were trying to find this one person, and it was in their level 3 acquisition, and we looked and looked, and we came up with 4 other people using that social, and narrowed it down to where the issuer, you know, what state it was issued out of and the time frame, and that got us back to one person, a gentleman in Philadelphia area back in the 60s, but it wasn't the same name that was on their plan.
yeah. All right. All right, yeah, I'll reach out to you. I got your, like I said, I know Jamie had
Yeah,
given me your contact information, so I'll reach out to you and see if there's something you can help me out with on these.
absolutely. We'll clean them up for you, George.
Thanks.
I still like the fact that they, you know, that other provider declared said my wife was missing, and then all of a sudden she gets this little thing in the mail, and it's not. That's the big stick with the DOL. You know, my wife's like, well, you know, I had to get a 402F notice, and the agent's like, how do you know this stuff? And the agent's
Right.
blowing her off, It's no big deal. It's no big deal. And then she says, well, you know, my husband's an ERISA attorney. Then all of a sudden the DOL agent's like, oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Maybe I should look closely at this, because it was, you know, it was a situation where it was a profit sharing, and my wife actually didn't even know that she ever got a profit sharing contribution. It was like $4,000, whatever. So, you know, one of these days I'll write a blog piece and see how that ends. So, in conclusion, Mark, you were a big part of the 401k conferences before that 401k conference before the pandemic broke, and like I said, we'll eventually be back. What was your favorite event out of all the ones that you did? And you did quite a few.
Yeah, I like the one at Coors Field. Really like the tour of the stadium there, but you know, the national one in Orlando last year was good. Had a lot of fun with you guys, but I really like Foxborough. I'm not a Patriots fan by any means, being in Denver, but just the stadium and, you know, the event itself, it was kind of cool to be back in you know, Boston area, you know, going to Foxborough and having that event there. That was probably my best event. I like that one a lot.
That was a fluky event, because when I booked it, I didn't know that the Thursday night game was booked. I booked it before the Thursday night game, and it was the Giants Patriots.
Yeah.
And our buddy Lyle, you know, knows somebody in the NFL and got us tickets, and so we were there the night before.
Yeah, and fortunate enough for me, I was part of that party, so I enjoyed that a lot. And we were a little cold, but the wind wasn't as cold as it could have been. and the rain didn't and held off. So, with no rain and just some wind, it was pleasant enough. It was fun. It was a great time.
Yeah, Disney was a lot of fun for the Disney part of it, but it's a little surreal when you're leaving Wednesday and the park closes, Sunday
Thursday.
because of this pandemic, and half your attendance cancels in the last minute, and one of your
Right.
attendants dies the week before, and a lot of
Yeah,
fun,
they're
a lot of fun.
closing the gate as you're driving out of the lot.
That's what it felt like. That when we're taking the plane ride back, and that's when the NBA was suspending their season. You feel like
Yeah.
yes, Greg, the last chopper out of Saigon. Yes, that's
Yeah, right.
the world's
They may
coming.
not
To an
invite
end.
you back, Larry.
The world's coming to an end, and you're on an airplane. It was like a September 11th kind of feel to that, ride back, because it's like you feel like the world is coming to an end, and what the hell's going on, and
sitting there having lunch in Orlando airport, listening to them upgrading it to a pandemic, and you're going, great. How is this going to end?
My buddy Larry, who does the athlete appearances, my wife was wiping down his desk, his little tray table with wipes, and it was really weird, because you're home Wednesday night, and then Friday's we didn't know at the time my kid's last day of school before September, so. Yeah, Mike says Dallas was the best. Dallas was pretty good. Everson Wells was a great guest. And of course, my favorite part of the Dallas trip was not at the stadium. It was going to South Fork. David, Tori, and I went to South Fork the day before. Yeah, so everybody knows I'm a big Dallas fan. So yeah, hopefully we'll be back with live events come September, and Vegas in December, and hopefully life will get back to normal. But then again, I thought this was going to end last May. So what do I know?
It'll be good to get together and have a beer with y'all.
Exactly. So Mark, I appreciate you being on here, and everybody will be back in 2 weeks. And thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks,
Talk
Mark.
to you guys. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Mark.